G'day guys and welcome back to MotoringBox. It is stinking hot here in Queensland today, but it's rather fitting because today I'm going to be replacing some more items on my BA Falcon XR6 Turbo's cooling system. Stick around. Now if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that about a couple of months ago I performed a full flush on the cooling system of this car. And it has been performing well, but there have been a few little niggly issues, namely around the heater hose pipes coming out of the firewall on the driver's side of the engine bay. There's a little plastic T-piece there which had become brittle, and it created a slow weep of coolant which was dripping out of there down onto the hot headers and exhaust, and it smelled horrendous. So I replaced that item and I thought I'd fixed it, but it turns out that it started leaking again from around that T-piece. And to make matters worse, the lower heater hose has now started leaking as well. And I could replace some of the hose clamps there and I might be able to fix it, but I thought a better way to do it would be just to replace everything. So what I've got here is a Gates heater hose set for a BA Falcon, a coolant hose pack they call it. And that should allow me to replace pretty much every single cooling system hose in this engine bay. Now this kit cost me about 150 bucks from memory, but I really think this is a good investment in the cooling system of this car. I mean, I could have just let things go and just replaced the individual hoses and fittings as they failed. But because this car is 17 years old, if I go ahead and fix those leaky heater hoses just by replacing them by themselves, I reckon sooner or later something else is going to go and I'll have to dump the coolant all over again, fix the hose and repeat and repeat. Now there is an argument here as well that seeing as I'm replacing all the hoses, if budget allows, I recommend you should replace the radiator as well, because a common thought is that a radiator has a life of about 10 years. And seeing as this car is 17 years old, it could still be the original radiator or it might not, I don't really know. I don't have the budget at the moment to replace that radiator. I have heard after watching a video from Ross Reviews that he found out that Ford Australia had just 4 OEM radiators left in stock, and I believe they're probably all sold out now. So the alternative is you can get dodgy sort of aftermarket ones on eBay, but I've heard a lot of horror stories about those. So if I was going to replace a radiator on this car, I'd probably go for a really high quality one from PWR, but they go for around $1,000 from memory. So I haven't got the funds to do that quite yet. So I'm going to start with the hoses. So I guess the task here is to drain the cooling system and start ripping off and replacing hoses. So let's get to it. All right, so before we get started, I'm just going to make sure that we have all of the hoses, and I reckon we do, but look, better make sure. So that one's for the top there, from the thermostat to the radiator. This one looks like it's the lower hose, which fits down in there, from the radiator to the engine. This one looks like it's for the radiator to the overflow tank, this big guy down in here. So that's cool. These two are your heater hoses. So there's a mark on there from where you need to cut it to put in your T-piece. And that's for the second heater hose, so they both go down the back there. They're the ones I replaced this one before, but it was still leaking. But look, there you go. So we've got those, and we also have, so this one, so I believe this one might be here. It sort of tucks down top of the radiator and then goes back up to there. It's a little bit long, we can cut him to suit. So that's cool, and then we've also got these two. So I'm guessing this one is probably for that second one there. And this guy, where does he go? Actually, I know what that is. That's for the heater hose. So this is where, obviously, where you got to cut it to put your T-piece in, and then this is an additional connection which comes off there and runs back to the engine or wherever the hell it goes. I don't really know, but I know how the hoses are laid out, so yes, I'll be able to fix that. Now, one other thing I'm going for here as well is you'll see later that when I take that heater hose off, this one that has the plastic T-piece already in it, plastic T-piece is another potential point of failure there. Seeing as it is made of plastic, it's dealing with intense heat day in, day out. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to use this alloy one which I bought on eBay. I'm going to splice that in instead, and that's just going to remove a potential point of failure. Probably should have been metal from the factory. So yeah, if you guys are running your stock cooling system on your BA Falcon and it starts to leak around the heater hose, it's probably going to be that T-piece getting brittle. So alloy doesn't get brittle, so let's use that.
So before I can drain any coolant, I firstly need to remove the under tray. This is fairly easy to do, it's held on by a smattering of nuts and screws. So I'm going to remove all of them from the leading edge, and then there's just one more screw in the centre at the back of the tray. With the last one removed, I can simply lower the tray and drag it out from under the car. Now because I'm going to be draining the coolant from this engine, I'm simply going to remove the lower hose from the bottom of the radiator. There is a drainage bung on the passenger side of the radiator which can be undone, but really it doesn't get any faster than simply removing the bottom hose.
Alright, so with the coolant drained, I'm going to go for the easiest hose first. So obviously we just need to loosen the hose clamps, and this hose should come right off. Now usually when hoses have been on the car for this amount of time, they're not going to come off very easily, and in many cases if you try and sort of lever them off, you can end up cracking and breaking them, which in this case shouldn't really matter. But yeah, you might just need to get a bit of a screwdriver under there just to sort of break the seal or the bead, and then you should just be able to wriggle it off. Wow, look at that, it's looking a bit scungy under there. Look, you just don't know how old is the hose. It's got Ford on it. I dare say that's the original, so we'll get rid of that. And obviously we just need to clean that hose connection. The one on the radiator looks alright. I'll give it a bit of a wipe just in case there's any grit or contaminants there, but it looks pretty good. This one on the other hand looks atrocious. You could really clean it with anything you like. Tyre foam seems to clean absolutely anything in my experience, so I'm gonna spray a bit of that on there, because why the hell not? Let's see how that goes after one. Yeah, look, it's getting there. You could even get a bit of sandpaper perhaps. All of the sandpaper I have is a really fine grit, so hopefully yeah, it's doing all right actually. This is like a 1200, no 2000 grit. So that's like barely anything at all. Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with that. It's looking pretty clean. I'll give it one last shot of the foam. Probably have to clean this engine with the tyre foam after I'm done anyway. If you haven't seen that video that I filmed, check out the link up here, up there. Tyre foam is a really cool product for cleaning engines with. There's a lot of haters out there for the technique. But I'll tell you what, before you hate it, try it. Now this hose kit actually comes with a whole lot of new clamps as well. So I guess it's just a matter of finding out which ones are which. I'm guessing there's going to be 4 of the large hose clamps, obviously, for the upper and lower hose. You just really have to think about what orientation you want the clamps to be on so you can get to them with the screwdriver. So obviously this one here, you should have it on the right so that you can get your screwdriver down here on the right hand side. So I'll feed our hose on a little bit, not all the way yet. This one, I'll probably put it over the back just so it's hidden a little bit more. And we'll feed that one onto there. Little stopper here, so I guess you just put it all the way up to the stopper. And then likewise, there is a stopper on the radiator, so there you go, that's hit all the way up against that. We could probably take these labels off as well, because that's going to really irk me. I probably should have done that from the beginning. But look, they come off pretty easy, so that's, well, I spoke too soon. There you go, that's off 100%. So really, so long as your hose clamp, you can see a bit of a ridge here from where there's that little knurling on the thermostat connector. So long as it's between there and there, she should be ready to go. So I'm gonna sort of shuffle it around a bit just so the actual clamp looks a lot neater. You just see the clamp itself and not so much the little adjustment part. So I guess because you're using a socket, even though this one is not very large, you just have to bear in mind you are putting a lot more leverage on the clamp as opposed to using a screwdriver. So yeah, you don't want to do it up to your to the ability of your strength. Just if in doubt, you can come back with a screwdriver and see just how strong is that. And like I can't even do that up any stronger, so I dare say what I've done there is enough, possibly even too much, so be careful. Get a longer extension here for this one. So feel for where the radiator connector runs out, and then we want our clamp to be obviously past that. And that feels pretty tight. Let's check it with the screwdriver. Yeah, that one's well and truly done. Anyway, you've got some coolant spilt, try and mop it up because that's going to help you clean up a bit later. That one's done. Let's move on to the lower one. Right, what I ended up doing was taking out the thermo fans. These are really easy to do. There's 2 bolts. Here they are here. One on one side of the radiator, the other here on the other side. You just need to disconnect the connector for it as well. And once you've done those 3 things, the fans just lift straight out, and it gives you really good access. So you can see the lower radiator hose there is now in place, done up. And I'm now tightening the upper half. Alright, so we're now at the part of the job where you guys are going to struggle to see anything at all. But on a BA Falcon, there is a heater hose arrangement down here on the driver's side of the engine. There's this first hose that comes out of the firewall and it goes down to a plastic T-piece here. It then continues down to the bottom of the block. And then the T-piece has an additional smaller hose coming off the back that sort of ducks around behind the engine. So that's one half of it. And then the second half is this additional hose which comes out under the first one here, sort of loops around and then takes off behind the engine. I have no idea where these hoses go, but it is definitely to do with the heater. So I've got a leak here in the T-piece. I'm of course going to use my new alloy T-piece with the new hose. And then yeah, there's this second hose which I've got in the kit which needs to connect on there. So I'm gonna have to get the camera out of the way a little bit just so I can get in here. It's really annoying, you know, I just replaced this whole arrangement. You buy these 2 upper and lower hoses with the T-piece as one unit. I got it from Repco. I don't remember the brand. I thought it was Mackay, like the people who supply these hoses, OEM anyway. But yeah, it's got these weird clamps on it. I don't really know what you call them, but they're sort of non-serviceable. You can't really get them off without destroying them, I believe. And yeah, as you can see, they haven't held up the, I don't know if it's the pressure of the coolant or what, but it started leaking out from the upper and lower hose. Oh, it's sweaty work this. That clamp just broke. So they're probably due for replacement. Everything's sort of fatiguing and breaking as you go. It's gotten to the point where my experience with this car is if you are touching anything on the cooling system, be prepared for it to break when you're trying to get things apart. So yeah, a easy weekend job or like an easy 1 or 2 hour job can turn into a day because you need to go and get parts. So, and you're stranded really, you can't drive the car until you have the part repaired that you've been working on. So it's really annoying. So I'm just pulling this upper hose off. There she goes. So yeah, this was a brand new hose and now she's screwed. Access here is terrible. And you kind of have to straddle the car like you're mounting the car. It looks hilarious if you're doing it outside and your neighbours can see. Looks like you're getting intimate with it. As you try and reach down into the depths of the engine bay here. It's probably one of the least accessible areas of the entire engine bay. And yeah, there's like a multitude of hoses that need to come off. As Hubnut would say, all the good times. Or is it all the fun times? I think it was all the good times. I like that phrase. I don't know if it's a Welsh thing or a British thing or what. But yeah, it kind of, with a bit of sarcasm, it kind of sums it up. Hope you guys are enjoying all my heavy breathing. It sounds like I'm having fun, but I'm really not. Considering this is the entire reason pretty much I'm doing this job in the first place is because these are the hoses that were leaking. Alright, it's coming off. There we go. 2/3 of our T-piece is off, and we've just got this last one. There we go. So, here is a better look at what I'm talking about. This is it. So this part here connects to the firewall up the top. You got your T-piece, that's the plastic part that started leaking. You can see all the red, hopefully you can see all the red coolant caking around there. These are the weird clamps that came pre-installed on this entire part. I had to supply this one myself, that's why it's got that sort of clamp on it. And yeah, this one goes down and connects to the side of the block. Do not leak again, I swear. Do not leak again. Otherwise, you'll be sorry, and I just fucked that clamp. Alright. Luckily, I've got some spares of these. I think I was doing that up with a bit too much anger. Luckily, I foresaw a need for hose clamps in my future. So, I went and bought a whole lot of them. And it's great because on a day like today, I do not need to go anywhere to buy hose clamps. I might do this one up, finish it off with the screwdriver just to make sure I'm not over tightening it. Because I do not want that to snap out again. See, that is really tight. It didn't feel tight with the socket. But with the screwdriver you can really tell. You can spray like a bit of WD-40 on these if you're struggling, but I like to avoid it if possible, just because I want my hoses to be as firmly on there as you can. This one's fighting me though. There we go. On you go, mate. There we go. Looks like a snake. Do not over tighten this, Sean. Not a lot of room to work with, but we'll get there. Alright, so that's starting to feel pretty tight. Let's resist the urge to keep tightening, and I'll just check it with my screwdriver. Yep, can't turn that any further, so that one's done. You know what, again, I don't want to over tighten these, so that's feeling pretty tight to me. Cool. So yeah, I just need to get everything in place. This little dong here, little schlong, is going to be the hardest. So I'll try and connect that one first. I can't really see shit. There he is, he's on. I just need to push him on a bit further. There we go. Okay, the little guy's on. Slide this top hose on. Got to push him all the way. Oh, I just lost one of my clamps. That was the one off the bottom. I think that's the first item that has fallen down under the engine today, so I'm doing pretty good. So I'm going to feed that back onto the bottom hose. Try and hold it with my hand, and then get the bottom hose onto the connection down the bottom here that goes onto the block, the engine block. So that one's going to be the death of me, I think. I'm just going to die after I finish this one. I've had enough. Tell you what, if any single one of these connections leaks, do you know where the coolant drops and leaks down onto? It goes straight onto the hot exhaust, and I tell you what, There's nothing worse than the smell of burning coolant. It almost smells like burning wood. When this thing started leaking, I got home one day from driving and I pulled up and I smelled what smelled like burning wood or paper. And I freaked out, like it was really strong. Jumped out, popped the bonnet, and I could just see smoke coming up from down in this part of the engine bay. And I freaked out because it looked seriously like something was on fire. I was relieved to work out that it was coolant, but yeah, that was actually the reason that spurred me to fit a fire extinguisher to this car, because I just felt pretty helpless if there was a fire. I mean, I was at home, I did actually grab the garden hose and I just sprayed it down there. There was steam going everywhere because the exhaust was so hot. But it took forever to stop the smoking, because there's a heat shield around like the dump pipe and everything in the upper half of the exhaust. So the coolant goes down there between the exhaust pipe and the heat shield. So it sort of sits in there like it's on a baking tray basically. And it's really hard to sort of hose it out. So tell you what, if you have a BA Falcon and you're gonna work on it, get a quarter inch socket set, because this thing has come in handy so many damn times, it's not funny. So yeah, this thing kind of just sits there. But yeah, I reckon that should all be good to go. So guys, this is what I've been slaving away on. Let's see how well I can show you. I've got the two heater hoses connecting to the firewall, top and bottom. There we go. Top one goes down to a T-piece. There's your T-piece right there. The smaller one, oh look, just trust me, the smaller one goes around behind the engine, connects in there. The lower half of the T-piece goes down, which you're probably not going to see, goes down to the block. You can see it down the bottom there in focus. So that's that half. This second pipe basically is just one snaky looking pipe, comes out of the firewall under the bottom here, and it goes down to that little connector there. So really, if you wanted to do a thorough job, you could probably fill the system with water, pressurize it up, see if there's any leaks. If there isn't, you could then dump the water and fill it with coolant. But I am going to trust that I did a proper job and I'm just going to send it. I'm just going to get everything bolted up again. And one last thing I'm going to do, of course, is get my garden hose and just spray, particularly all down there underneath the heater hoses, because there is coolant sitting around down there on the top of the exhaust as well. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of a burn-in sort of a period, literally, where you're probably going to smell a bit of coolant, especially when it's dropped down on the exhaust and it's sitting between the exhaust and the heat shield. Thermofan's installed, it's as easy as that, guys. So yeah, I reckon we are probably good to go. So we've got our Nulon XR6 Turbo red coolant. I've had a few people criticizing me about using the red coolant because they reckon it's for alloy block engines. But according to the Super Cheap Auto website, the XR6 Turbo can take red or green coolant. They essentially reckon the red is a longer life coolant. It can get something like 7 years, I think it is. What does it say? 8 years, or 500,000 kilometers apparently. So what I'm going to do is just tip in a litre of this, because it's a concentrate. So for every, it's a 50-50% mix you need to put in. So for every litre, that's a litre already, for every litre of that you put in, you need to get a litre of demineralised water. So yeah, that's looking a little bit over full. I can always get a syringe later if I need to suck some out. let's see how she goes. Alrighty guys, it's been 2 days since I replaced the hoses on this car, so let's have a look, see how they're holding up. Alright, so let's have a look here. On first impressions, it's all looking really good. The top hose here, not a single bit of coolant or anything leaking out around either end. So that is looking fantastic. Again, same thing, looks like I need to top my coolant tank up a little bit. It is sitting on the minimum mark at the moment, but not a single leak from anywhere around there. The bottom hose as well. Don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but I cannot see coolant anywhere. And also, more importantly, I can't smell coolant anywhere. So that's looking fantastic. And our little heater hoses down the back here. Again, they're all looking spotless. I really love the look of that aluminium T-piece as well. I think it is, just looks the business. And let's have a little look down the back here, spotless. And yeah, look, I am completely happy with that. And more importantly, you know, it is great to look under here and not smell coolant, but also adding those new rubber hoses, you've got this really satisfying smell of just new rubber. And you know, it is a really good feeling to know that these hoses are brand new and they're gonna last the distance. So yeah, look guys, I'm really happy with that result. And as you can see, the engine bay still looks fantastic in this car. I gave it another hit using the Armor All tire foam. And it's just a really fantastic product for cleaning engines. Who would have thought? If you want to know more about that, check the link up in the corner of the video to check out how that works. But yeah, look, this is a fantastic success. The hoses are all performing as you would expect, no leaks, smells fantastic, looks fantastic, and you can drive away knowing that your cooling system is going to be performing exactly as intended. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, if your budget allows, definitely find a quality radiator to replace your aging unit. This car is 16, 17 years old. A lot of BA, BFs are now in that age territory, so you are sort of on borrowed time with your radiator. So if your budget allows, definitely replace that as well. Replace your hoses, and hopefully you'll enjoy many, many years of trouble-free motoring afterwards. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to the channel because I'm doing little do-it-yourself guides all the time. And I'd really appreciate your support. So throw me a like, check out some of the other videos, and I'll see you next time.